All right. Hi, folks. It is that time of the month again, and I have another Visionary Realms legend with me today. We have our Chief Executive Officer, Kuripan Rowan. G'day, Chris.
Hey, Ben. Hello, everyone.
Great to have you on, mate. I think I've got nearly everyone else in the company except for you, so it's fantastic to finally get you on to say hi.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is probably the first time most of you have actually heard my voice.
That's right. Yeah, which is great. It's about time, mate. We're doing fantastic things at the company at the moment, and it's really good to get you on to start the year. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I hope I don't disappoint you guys today. I don't have horns. I don't chomp on a cigar. I am not your evil overlord CEO. The inception of Visionary Realms was pretty interesting. It started with a vision. And I think Brad, had learned some lessons in the industry along the way. And one of them was that he really needed to focus on the creative side of things. And we'll get into it later, but I've worked with him before, worked with Smedley before, know all of these guys. I've known them for a million years. And Brad really wanted somebody to come in and run the company per se, backstop things, keep things on the straight and narrow, keep things managed properly, while he focused on the visionary creative side of things. And the idea was for me to kind of be in the background quietly, just keeping things solid. And he asked me probably. Yeah, it took about 6 months before he convinced me to come on board, because I had recently kind of quasi-retired, and he convinced me, and the way he convinced me really was with passion. I was looking for something really, really that could just spark my passion, something I could get excited about, something I could sink my teeth into. And the early passion around this project really just infected me. And, I knew I could play a role. I wanted to see this succeed. I agreed with the vision. I wanted to see Brad succeed again. I thought the market needed this. And so, this was my part, to be in the background. Circumstances have changed, and little by little, you'll be hearing more from me. Unfortunate circumstances that brought us here, but I am thrilled to be here. I am proud of this team. I am proud of this community. I appreciate this community's support more than you guys could ever know, and look forward to taking this trip with all of you. Can't be more excited about Pantheon than I am today. Things just keep getting better and better. Obviously, there have been bumps along the way, but there's bumps in life, and how we handle them really tells us, what kind of people we are. And the way this team has handled the bumps in the road has just been spectacular, and it just speaks to the quality of the people involved in the project, and frankly the community that supports it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Very well said. I think with that passion where we all started too, when Brad first had that vision, I'm not sure, he probably spoke to you before he went live with it or spoke publicly, but once I heard about it as well, and a lot of my friends and guild members and that from Vanguard and other games were all like ears pricked and very excited. We thought this is something that we needed, and we could not wait. And I was one of the first people with my friends to jump on board, and haven't left since.
Yep.
So you want to tell us a little bit about your past experiences and qualifications, mate? It's quite the list.
Yeah. I never know how far back to go, but I'll reach pretty far back and tell you about who I am and how I became Chris Rowan.
Perfect.
So, I went to school in the Bay Area, and I studied international marketing. And I really wanted to get out of the States and see the world, and took off and went and worked at an advertising agency in France for a while, and had just a spectacular time, but really wanted something more. And I went actually straight from France to Japan, and I got a graduate degree in Japan. And when I finished that degree, I had to decide, did I want to go back to the United States at a time when the economy was in the dumps, or did I kind of want to finish what I started? Went out in the job market, and the most interesting and lowest paying job I was offered was at Sony on the entertainment side. And joined Sony, had a spectacular time. They listened to me. They paid attention to me, even though I was a young punk kid. I speak, read, and write Japanese, but they were interested in perspective. And one thing led to another, and ended up starting actually the first online gaming site in Japan. Got involved in the PlayStation project when it was literally 10 people. Helped launch the PlayStation.
That's massive.
Yeah, quite an experience. I almost lost a PlayStation prototype in a train once.
Man.
I was taking one home for the night, and I left it on the cargo net up above my seat, and it was the last train of the night. It pulls into the station at like 1 a.m., and I was asleep on the train. I shook awake, I jumped up, and I ran out of the train, and I got out of the ticket gate, and I realized I had left a PlayStation prototype in the train. Fortunately, I was able to recover it.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, you hear those stories about people losing iPhone prototypes at bars. That could have been me. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but was always interested in new things and starting new things. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents started several businesses, and we'd talk around the dinner table about balance sheets and revenue and marketing. Interesting family. And just had the bug for starting new things, and ended up starting the first online gaming site in Japan. And we brought over a few early Sony titles from the United States, and that's how I got to know Brad and Smedley and all of those guys. And I remember when EverQuest was just starting, it hadn't even been named. I walked into the offices, and there's a guy, pretty sure it was Vu, sitting there at a table, wasn't even a desk, drawing dungeons on graph paper, way back.
Yeah,
Interesting
wow.
times. Yep. But anyhow, so back to Japan. I'm in Japan. I'm working at Sony. I had a great run there, but some friends kind of recruited me to a startup. And we started a company that ended up engineering parts of the Japanese internet, the mobile internet. I was kind of the number 3 guy there. And we took it public, and the crazy sucker went to a $10 billion market cap. I ran the IPO, I ran investor relations there, and I ended up running strategic venture investing at the company as well. And that brought me back to the States, where all the interesting internet deals were. And came back, started investing in companies, was sitting on a board with a guy, and he said, hey, let's do our own fund. And I ended up running a venture fund until 2006, did really, really well. And it was just a great education in how to start something right, and how to make it successful. And, we had our shares of ups and downs, but the fund ended up doing really well. And then I retired for the first time, which my wife laughed at. That lasted about 20 seconds. And ended up getting a call from some people in the industry asking me to help out with Sigil, Vanguard, which had gotten a little bit off track. And so I went in, and it was kind of late in the game, and managed to shore a few things up, and Hopefully the result was better than it might have been with my help. But in that process, I worked very, very closely with Brad through a very, very difficult time, and got to know each other really well. Did several all-nighters together, doing contracts and negotiating things, and just trying to put that company on the right path. And I'd known Brad for years before that, but we got even closer through that process. And then, one thing led to another. He remembered that experience, and he wanted me to be the business guy for Pantheon. And here I am.
That's amazing, mate. Such a great story. Such a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we're very lucky to have you on board.
I've seen a lot. I've seen ups. I've seen downs. I've seen what works. And if there's anything I've learned along the way, it's passion, commitment, and people that really make a difference when you're trying to accomplish a mission like this. And that's really what it comes down to. We have taken on literally one of the hardest software projects you can do. Making an MMO is one of the largest scale, most complex, multi-talent requiring software projects that you can do. And we're doing it crowdfunded from scratch, kind of doing it in the public eye when it's usually done behind closed doors where difficult decisions have to be made. A lot of it's been done on a shoestring, and that's just really amazing what's been done, all things considered. This just what we've accomplished with the community support, some investor support, and frankly, blood, sweat, tears, and passion from team members. I just haven't seen anything quite like it.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I know the passion from the team is extraordinary. Like, people put so much of themselves into this. Yourself, myself included. I can't thank the team and the community enough for everything that they do for the company and the game. It's amazing to watch and to be a part of.
It is.
Okay, well, if you would like, do you want to start getting into some of these questions, or did you have anything else you'd like to talk about?
Let's start with the questions.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I don't usually say names or anything. We just go through the questions. So we've got, does Ronik's employment contract provide for survivor benefits every time he dies on a stream? And does he choose himself as a beneficiary for those policies?
I think that's actually a great question. In-game speculative life insurance on Ronik's life could be a thing, couldn't it?
He needs it.
Well, that's the problem, though. He dies so often that I think it could be exploited somehow. Ronik death farming or something like that. Yeah. But I mean, so even though it's a kind of a humorous subject and a humorous lead-in to a subject, it's interesting how one thing can lead to another, and these discussions can create ideas. I mean, could an MMO have life insurance on characters? Maybe it could someday, and that's just me thinking out loud. And, Ben, that's something that our team does all the time. There's no lack of ideas in game design. And we love batting around ideas. The problem is that, we love to discuss them too, and we like to discuss them with the community. But often that leads to misunderstandings. We're just thinking out loud, talking speculatively, and somebody grabs hold of it, and there's a misunderstanding. It gets amplified, and suddenly everybody thinks that Pantheon's going to have life insurance in it, and that's one of the perils of doing this, doing something out in the open, doing it publicly. when it would usually be done behind closed doors. We can have those discussions and bat things around, but when you do it in the public eye, it can take on a life of its own. There can be misunderstandings, cynicism, all sorts of things. And I got to tell you, doing this in public is really, really hard. We want to provide as much information as we can to everybody, because people have contributed their thoughts and their passions and their money, and they want to know what's going on. And one of the hardest jobs for us is metering the information, getting out as much as possible without it being misunderstood, misconstrued. We'd love to have speculative talks, but then people want to hold us to speculation. And so then we stop speculating out loud. Then we end up shutting up. And then the more we shut up, the more people want to know. And it's been an interesting journey trying to get the information flow right. And we know we haven't gotten it perfect. We're always trying. And that's one thing I'll tell you. If anything, this team is sincere in its appreciation for the community and wanting to communicate with the community. It is dead serious, 100% sincere about wanting more communication.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, conversations like that, you're right. Like, we're gamers just like these guys are, and how they chat in our official forums and across, different platforms is how we chat in our, official platforms and our staff platforms. And when some of that crosses over and we chat to our community as fellow gamers and equals, that's where the information kind of like, because we have a different name badge, it's like, yeah, that's where it can get kind of mixed up and crossed over. It's like, oh my God, this is happening now, when we're literally just having banter and chat with our fellow gamers. So it is very interesting to get that balance right, which is something that I think you're right, we are still working on. We're not quite there yet, but we are definitely trying. This is something I bring up often with Ben Dean and the team, and it's something we're working on to try to get that balance right, to get as much info as we can out to you guys. Without leaking the stuff that we're not quite serious about or ready to talk about just yet.
Exactly.
All right, so moving on, we've got how important is the evaluation build for this project, which is a fantastic question.
Yeah, everything we do for a reason. We don't have a lot of resources, so everything we do is important, and this in particular is important. It's really the first time we've brought all the core gameplay features together in a single experience. It was the right thing to do at this point, and it's going to be a great tool for showing potential partners, Pantheon. Up until now, when we've showed potential partners the game, we've shown them fragments, bits and pieces, and then we've tried to explain the pieces together and help them see the coherent whole. And with the evaluation build, we usually go in there with them together, but we could literally hand it off to them, and they can play and experience the core features and the core loop all in one place, working together. The puzzle pieces fit together, and finally experience that which is Pantheon. And so, honestly, it was. Now that the refactor's done, that the code base is solid and headed on a production path, that we have the content building tools in a place where we can put something like this together efficiently, that we have enough animations in there and enough weapons and items and pieces of armor. All of that came together at the right time for us to put this particular build together, and take it out and hopefully look for hopeful funding partners. So just good timing and powerful tool. And
very important. This is massive for us. We've been working everything into it to get to this point, and now this is basically our base to show off our game and hard work to those people interested that could set us up for a long time to come.
Yep.
So with the evaluation build complete, or almost complete, for investors to test out, what comes next?
Well, we have already started showing it to prospective investors. In fact, one of them this morning. We started with a couple parties that we're pretty close to and have been for a while. And they were kind of expecting this and looking forward to it, and got really, really good reactions. But we also got some good constructive feedback. And so what we'll do is we'll make a few quick refinements, polish it up a little bit of quality of life stuff in there, and then we jump into the Shark Tank. We'll be going after a really broad audience of prospective partners, most of whom we've already spoken with, we already know, but we also figured out along the way that we needed to stop talking about Pantheon. We needed to be able to show Pantheon. Otherwise, they were just going to tell us, we're interested, show us more. And so now that we're armed and ready to do that, we're very close. We're literally weeks from jumping into the Shark Tank.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Very, very exciting. So what's next on the agenda for the team in 2021?
Okay, big question. That's, it's the beginning of the year. And around the end of the year, into the beginning of the year, we've spent a lot of time talking about this. The team worked very hard over the holidays putting eval together, and they needed a little bit of a breather. We always know generally what's coming next. Not generally. It's the wrong word. We always know quite specifically what's coming next. We like to plan ahead, but we do have a solid plan together for 2021, and the top item is partner business development, and along with that, preparation for growth. We have the pieces together that we need to be talking to partners. The money comes in, a big chunk of money comes in. We have to be prepared to put it to work. And we've got a great team. We've got solid processes. We've got the core processes in place. We've got kind of the leaders in place. But I've been through this many times. Growth is very, very difficult. And so we're doing our best to be prepared for that. And then I think it's no secret we're driving hard toward alpha in 2021.
Yeah.
Again, the company is throttled by available resources. And with the right resources, it's something that can definitely be accomplished. There's really not that much more to do on the programming side. The code base is really, really solid. We need to get a few major systems in, and then we need to switch out the network stack for scalability. We do have quite a bit of world building to do still, and that will always, MMOs, content.
Yeah, that's it.
Getting enough content in there and keeping enough content in there for expansions, for people to consume. That's always the biggest challenge with MMOs. World building, Jimmy has kind of pioneered this process. Jimmy Lane's pioneered this process using Houdini to semi-automate or make more efficient a lot of the world building. That's something that little companies like Visionary Realms don't typically do. That's big company stuff, and that's a big deal for us. It'll allow us to make more content, or the target content faster, or more cheaply, or however you want to slice and dice it. It's a big win for us. That's a real enabler. But then another thing that we really have to consider is if we pull in, if we've got an audience of 8,000 people wanting to play this game, and say 20% of them want to play it any one time, that's a lot to support. That's a lot of processing power. That's a lot of network bandwidth. and it's a lot of server monitoring, which human beings necessarily have to do. And there's a customer service element to it too. And then, Ben, the community's just going to explode when we open up
absolutely,
the alpha people.
Yeah, they're going to devour the content. They're going to devour the actual testing process. It's going to be fantastic. We need people to be able to gather that data, to break it up and be able to put it to use, and not just have all this mass information and not know what to do with it. There's a lot we need to get ready, but yeah, we're in a good place right now, a very good place, with all the help from our PA testers and more recently the focus testing. We've got fantastic information, and we've been able to build on that to prepare ourselves for alpha.
Exactly. We've got some crowdfunding initiatives coming. We always need to be looking at various ways to be putting more fuel into the tank. More fuel in the tank means more resources, more people making art, more people doing programming. Ben Dean's working on some awareness marketing, good old traditional marketing. A lot of that is influencer based.
Yes.
And then always a theme with any company, even a company this small, is internal communication and external communication with the community. It's something we take really seriously. It's really easy when people become this engrossed about something they're passionate about, and they put their heads down and they start working, and they get lost in their own world, and they might forget to tell people what they're up to. Even at a small company, when you're doing it virtually, which we started mostly virtual. We have an office here in San Diego, but now we're forced to be virtual by COVID. Being efficient and effective and communicating really well is something you just always need to stay on top of. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen completely naturally. And so you're always making sure communication lines are open and being used effectively.
And speaking of communication, sorry, Chris, just to clarify, the 8,000 number for Alpha was just an example number. We've got some very diligent and extremely intelligent VIPs that are working out numbers right now, but 8,000 was just given as an example. It's not an actual number for Alpha.
No.
But love the work put behind that. They're figuring out dollar amounts and monthly subs, and it's fantastic. I love these guys.
Yeah, it's a magnitude of order number, nothing more.
That's it. And this goes to show, like what we were talking about earlier, we say something in general chat and how it can quickly be taken to a different extreme and worked out and misunderstood. And that's a prime example right there.
Yep, there you go.
But we love it. That's why we have to be very careful too, though. We don't withhold information because we want to. We just want to make sure it's delivered in the correct way, and that there is a level of, backing behind it that will make sure that we do say what we're going to say, instead of just saying something randomly and then it never happening, which will set us up to look like, we're just blowing hot air, which we're not. So, yeah. Still getting that right. But love you guys for trying. Okay. Were you finished with that question, mate?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so moving on, are there any changes to the timetable or shifting of priorities that may have occurred due to the recent funding that you were comfortable discussing in a more detailed manner than the vague information provided in the most recent producer's letter?
Vague information.
Again, what we just described was basically...
I would call that well-considered, properly metered information.
Exactly.
Appropriate for the subject matter. We've talked about it. We're aiming at alpha. We finished the evaluation build. It needs a few weeks of polish, and then it is going into the Shark Tank. Marketing and PR, always trying to get the name out there, let people know about Pantheon, some crowdfunding initiatives. You all heard that, I hope you heard that Gina Rochelle rejoined the team. She is just an amazing, got it together, disciplined, plain-spoken, process oriented, doesn't let stuff fall through the cracks, keeps people honest, keeps on top of things person. She's running HR. It's something that I was doing kind of in my spare time reactively and trying to catch up on. And it just wasn't working right. You can't do HR reactively, especially when you're preparing for growth. So having Gina on board to shore all of that up, to check all the processes, make sure everything's ready, and make sure taking care of your team is so critical, and having the time to hear out your team and just make sure you're there for them is critical, and Gina serves that role as well. And we are so lucky to have her. She's more than just an HR manager.
Yeah.
She's kind of a bedrock type person, makes the company better through and through. And,
Absolutely.
So just glad to have her mojo and her discipline, and she makes all of us better. Yeah.
Yeah, Gina's amazing. She's I think we started around the same time together back in the day, and she was actually one of the first moderators before I came on. So, and I've always had a fantastic relationship with Gina. We've always had each other's back, and through a lot of tough times and a lot of great times. And yeah, I'm very, very excited and happy to have her back on the team. She's amazing.
Yep.
All right, so moving on, we're about halfway through now, so we've got about 30 minutes to go. We've got a big post here with a lot of fantastic questions that we'll try to go through. We might speed it up a little bit so we can save 10 minutes at the end just to get some questions out live from the VIPs, and then we'll be done. But we'll move on with, can we discuss what the alpha-ready version of the game will look like and contain, i.e. what are our major milestones and benchmarks that we need to hit to move from pre-alpha to alpha?
So this is an interesting one because, unfortunately, the terms pre-alpha, alpha, beta have been hijacked by marketing departments across the world. And, people call something beta when it isn't, because if they get into beta, they can start charging for beta testing, or who knows what's driving people to turn the tried and true software development terms, alpha and beta, into marketing speak. I don't know, but we use these terms the traditional way. And alpha is well defined. And what it really means is major feature complete, usable, but not polished or complete form. So when Pantheon is major feature complete, and it's getting pretty close in usable but not complete or polished form, and we can support alpha testing, and we have enough content, and it will scale to the population, then we go into alpha. No sooner. Going into alpha and just calling it alpha to call it alpha and to let a bunch of people in when it's not ready is not a path to success, and we're not going to do that. No. So what does that mean? On the programming side, the refactor was the best thing we could have done. It was the time to do it. It's how games are made. You make a prototype, and a prototype is a lot of hard coding and just proving that things work, and then you go and you either start over or you refactor it and make it into production path ready code. And the refactor was the best thing we could have done. It's allowed us to accelerate on so many fronts. At the same time, the content production tools, the content creation tools have come a really, really long way. Allows us to create content that just appears in game without programmers being involved. So that's allowed us to really accelerate towards alpha. So all major features, working, playable, if not polished, all races, classes, core abilities, enough zones and content sufficiently tuned, then processing network and customer service resources prepared to support the player base. And then finally, a big load testing day with the pre-alpha testers where everybody just tries to beat the crap out of the game and crush it is going to be really important to getting into alpha. One of the big items, I think most of you are aware, one of the big changes, architectural changes we need to make is we need to switch out the networking stack. We have a homegrown, world-class, you would not believe it, quality networking stack that we've created that we have just abused and crushed and proven that it's highly scalable. It's actually an enabler for us, and we need to make that switch. But making that switch is a big commitment because it's kind of all hands on deck, and we can't really be doing much else while we're doing that, and it's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks. So, we are coming up on the point where we can kind of pause a few things and do it. It's major surgery. It's going to break a lot of things, and we're going to have to go back and fix them. But coming out the other end, it's going to be so much better, and it will make the game scalable to a point where technological bottlenecks, networking bottlenecks will not be the challenge. Instead, it will be social population density that could be the challenge. And so it becomes more about designing zones so people don't get clogged up and they flow. We don't end up with too many people in a zone because it's a social challenge for the game rather than being a technological challenge.
Yeah. It's all that balance between population and content and server performance, which is something we need to figure out, which is what testing's for. It's not going to be about server performance though. No, we've got that exactly. Yeah, it's just more about that balance for like feeling lived in and not too populated or overcrowded, but still not too sparse.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on to another portion is a progress tracker or such was also mentioned last October and December as potentially coming early this year. Is there an update on that?
I think this kind of goes back to one of those things where people kind of speculated on the VIP channel.
Yeah.
I think it was an idea.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of ideas that we need to be able to discuss without them somehow magically transforming into perceived promises. This has always been an issue. But it sounds like a nice idea. I hope we can do something like that, but no update. It's a nice idea.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so can we commit to a launch party just ahead of launch? I know some VIP pledges who would like to buy some rounds for the team.
There's nothing I would like more. I hope we can do it. I hope we've conquered COVID by then. Coming up to a launch, people are insanely busy polishing things and preparing for launch, but there is nothing I would like more than to have a party and have everybody get together and raise a glass.
Absolutely.
I hope we can.
Me too, mate. I'd love to be there. Okay, so this is a bigger question here, so I'll try to get through most of it. The retro game movement in MMOs has spawned WoW Classic and EQ TLP servers, along with countless emulator servers for those games and others long dead. One of the most frustrating things for MMO fans is when years later they hear that old content was never saved and cannot be recreated for a classic experience in a game world, or worse, when their favourite game goes dark forever. With that history in mind, and since we are at the outset of the Pantheon adventure, will VR take steps to create robust versioning of Pantheon's game assets so that VR can create our own TLP classic servers down the road potentially? Along those lines, will VR entertain setting up a mechanic to ensure that should the game ever go completely dark as a commercial entity, to which Terminus can be entrusted to survive in the hands of a caretaker organisation? I think this is a tough one. I know Brad had said some things back in the past about making it open, but where are we on that now?
Yeah, I've seen how software projects get slapped together, and I understand why some of these people couldn't pull old content out and provide it efficiently. Doesn't surprise me at all. All that being said, I'm going to put my CEO hat on and just going to have to say really dryly, we're 100% focused on successfully finishing, releasing, and expanding Pantheon. And anything that retracts from that just isn't a consideration at this point. If we had to consider potentially hosting version 1 content 10 years from now, when we know we're going to be on version 3 5 years from now, we might not finish the game. So first, we're going to focus on finishing the game.
Absolutely. Very important.
We plan to manage our processes better, so maybe it might be easier, but it's not a focus.
Yeah, well said, mate. All right, so can we discuss some of the work going into the logistical end of expanding a smaller pre-alpha group of testers to what could be 8,000 plus? Again, an example number, alpha testers and beyond. What does this look like from a technological end?
So architecturally, from the get-go, Pantheon is built to scale. The way the servers and the processes, how they run, the hardware configurations, how they interconnect, it's built to scale. And it was from day one. And I'm impressed that we were able to accomplish that from day one. That didn't need to be refactored.
Yeah.
So, we just add resources in chunks to make more space for people to play. And frankly, cloud computing has made this wildly easier than it ever has been before. If we had to do this with physical hardware, and we might backfill with some physical hardware, but for quick, elastic expansion, cloud computing makes it so easy. So we're set architecturally. We can get resources as we need them. The client, the networking stack is built to scale. Its scalability is not anywhere near the top of the list of my concerns. It's more near the bottom.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. A very quick one too. VR and fans just received a painful lesson on hard coding and refactors as well. Do we want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think this is a stubborn, ongoing misunderstanding about hard coding and refactors and the whole concept of how a game is built and the role of a prototype and production code. Game prototypes are typically highly hard coded. Pieces of functionality are created experimentally, and they get kind of stuck together into a semi-coherent whole to see how the game feels. And if when prototyping, the programmers were thinking about the perfect end product and scalability and compatibility with all the video cards and all of the things we have to think about in production code, then they would never get the prototype done. They'd always be worrying about, they'd be polishing the diamond before it had been rough cut. You got to rough cut the diamond first. And so prototyping's that rough cut. And then when you're done with that prototype, if you're happy with what you've got, then you need to decide what to do. And a lot of times what happens is all of the prototyping code is just binned. It's thrown out. It's left behind. And a lot of projects start from scratch. A lot of what's presented to publishers, it's just this thing they call a vertical slice. It's basically smoke and mirrors. Some of it can't even be attained in the final game. That's something we didn't do. We did real prototyping with real code. And then, we took a look at what we had, and we had a good, solid code base. But a lot of it was hard-coded, and a lot of it just didn't interconnect well and wasn't as well thought out as it could have been, but it was good enough that we could refactor it. So refactoring wasn't a stumble. It was a healthy, important thing for us to be doing to put us on the path to building production code, which is what we do now. We don't prototype. We conceptually prototype, but, we're building production code now, and we're in a really healthy place. And once again, we go back to the fact that we're doing this in the public eye creates misconceptions, and people think it was this misstep, this major delay, this poorly conceived approach. Not at all. This kind of stuff happens behind closed doors. Every game development company, you just don't hear about it. Refactoring is a good thing. Yeah. It's put us in a good place.
That's exactly right, mate. So, moving on a little bit, talking about the network library. While it's been mentioned before, can we continue this line of thought into how we're ensuring the framework is there for Terminus to handle larger crowds at launch in the future?
I think we've covered that pretty well, but it's built to scale. Cloud computing, great networking stack, every confidence in the design. It's really at the bottom of my list of concerns. It's not something that keeps me up at night.
Perfect. And yes, I'm sorry, we did touch on that before. It was a duplicate question, just worded differently. All right, so hacking and botting are rampant problems in gaming, with hacks ranging from warping, duping, all the way to large-scale corporate attacks like Sony experienced several years ago. DDoS attacks are also a concern. Can we talk about how VR will approach each of those challenges as a small startup? And can we expect two-factor authentication and PFS for our accounts or website in the future?
So I think small companies really got almost nothing to do with it in regard to security. We've always been highly security conscious, to the point where it's been a point of friction for some people.
Yes.
We're largely virtual, and that means that everybody's dialing in, basically, and our resources are there on the internet, and they need to be secured. And so we've taken a pretty stiff stance on security from the get-go. And, we've seen enough over the past 10 years about what can go wrong, from, the sophisticated attacks to people making stupid mistakes on how they manage their data. And we've got some pretty experienced DevOps ninjas who have been there and done that. And I think we have the right attitude about security. We need more resources to stay on top of security. Part of it is just, it's almost like a multi-antibiotic approach to an infection. You just have to, keep on top of it, or the infection of attacks and security will overwhelm you. I think we're prepared for that. With 2FA and all of that, we use 2FA internally. We have very secure systems internally, and pretty sure the forums allow 2FA. It's not required.
Yes.
2FA is interesting for game logins. I don't know if we'll require it. We might encourage it. When we release, there might be something more advanced and better than 2FA. But if one of our users' accounts gets hacked, it's our problem more than it is theirs a lot of the time at the end of the day. And so, we've had the same problem for 5,000 years. Security is a balance between accessibility and protecting, and you got to get that balance right. And I'm sorry to tell you that if anything, we're probably going to err on the side of protecting our assets and your assets.
Yeah.
And that means you might have to pick up your phone to get logged in, but so be it.
It's better than a gold farmer or someone else logging in and taking your account off you. It might be a small, annoyance for a much safer option.
So Ben, I'm kind of blabbing a lot. If you want to turn up the speed here,
not a problem.
I'll try to blab less, and we can maybe get through all this.
Mate, it's not blabbing. It's great chat. I know these guys are loving it as much as myself. We do have around 10 minutes left. We can go slightly over if you're okay with that. But we'll whip through these last few to get down to a few live questions.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll let the community tell me. I've got an investor waiting to talk to me. Who should I talk to first?
I would vote investor. A lot of them are saying goodbye already.
They'll wait. They know this is important. So.
All right, let's get through these ones. So what are our thoughts on a premium server offering? Also, while I understand it's not currently planned, if VR should create a cosmetic only or other cash shop, can we commit to having some servers available without the shop, even if at a higher sub cost? This is a slippery slope and something I can't really go too much into, but do you have any thoughts of that?
Yeah, there's really not much to say on this. It's just too early to be speculating on specific elements of the business model. Though I think some of our team members have speculated out loud on this, which comes back to bite you. But again, asterisk, it's only speculation. What I can say for certain is it's not going to be pay to win. We've turned down investment offers and partner offers, not just because, say, they were pay to win, but because they didn't really match the vision of what we're trying to accomplish here. And we won't go there. We're building this game to be a long-term community and a home for a large population of passionate players who are looking for challenge, community, discovery, and maintaining the long-term health of that world, the game, the community, is our core directive. It's what drives us. I want this world to be healthy for at least 20 years.
Yeah.
I want to be cranking out expansions. I want, it's not a metaverse play. That's not what we're doing here, but it could become a metaverse for some people. They're home. They live in this world. And so we're not going to implement business models that are going to harm the long-term health of Pantheon.
That's correct. Our goal is to have a nice, profitable, successful game that we can enjoy, the community can enjoy, wider gaming audience can enjoy, and we can keep the servers paid for and running for a long, long, long time to come.
Yep.
All right, so in late 2019 to late 2020, carried over a number of challenges, ranging from the individuals who sadly departed in that time to COVID impacting the world. In addition to VR, spent a significant period of time fairly quiet since PA4. Can we spend a few minutes talking about some of the non-public challenges VR, or you, Chris, as a CEO, encountered in that time, as well as lessons learned, successes found, things that have surprised, and anything else of interest that you'd care to share with the fans?
Yeah, that's a big one, and we're kind of out of time, but I mean, there's one obvious huge one. Brad's passing was huge.
Yes.
And for me, I never got time to grieve because I had so many responsibilities when Brad passed away suddenly, responsibilities to the community, to the team members, to Brad's family, to the industry, to the game, to keeping things going, to all of that I knew there wasn't time for it, and I immediately snapped into professional mode, and serving people and their concerns and their grief, and being there for them. And I put so much into that I never got time to grieve, and that just feels icky. I just
Yeah.
And I was worried about discussing the subject today because it hasn't happened yet, and
Yeah.
I'm worried. I'm worried that when it comes out, it's going to gush out, and I don't want to do it here.
Yeah, no, it's understandable, man.
But moving on to the next one, Kurt passing away.
No, another big one.
That one paralyzed me emotionally for about a week.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was because I hadn't grieved over Brad. And then Kurt's passing, I was just in a daze for about a week, just useless. And I had to tell people that I'm sorry. I just, I can't process right now.
Yeah.
And then the other was, the challenge of Project Fairfail and going quiet, and then realizing it was the right time to refactor, and the company making the mistake of not communicating clearly enough. That was a big lesson that nobody at the company will ever forget. We've come out of it better and stronger. But that was a real learning moment, or several months of learning, to be perfectly honest.
You were a rock during that time too, mate. Like, I'll never forget that news of Brad crushed me, and I was speechless. I was in a public place, and it was very hard to accept that phone call. But I got a message from you asking if I was okay, and that meant a lot. So thank you. You were a rock for a lot of people.
Glad I could be there.
All right, so let's move on a little bit lighter in subject. You're the CEO, so they're asking if you can spill a few beans and discuss briefly what unseen monster, zone, raid, item, ability, spell, quest, race, feature, etc. in Pantheon excites you the most.
So the only bean that Ben would give me for today, everything has to go through Ben, so blame it on Ben. The only bean he would give me was that next week's dev stream is about crafting. So
yes, lots more information to come.
But I'm kind of an old guy relatively, and come from that tokenesque era, and so the first big epic dragon fight in Pantheon, I can't wait for that. I know all of the epic abilities that are planned, and the sympathetic abilities, and how they work together, and the cool things that they're going to do. And I can't wait till the players see those. It's really going to be differentiating. It's really going to be cool. I think we've really navigated this, all the beauty of tab targeting, and the tactical approach to tab targeting, and the strategic approach to dealing with an encounter with the right balanced group, with infusing more action into combat without breaking the original feels that we got all those years ago, and combining all of that without compromising or creating some bizarre bastardized mess. Having been able to accomplish that has just been an amazing feat. There's still work to do, but the way some of the epic abilities and ground targeted attacks, and the way the ranger's going to work and stuff like that, it was really exciting. And then I just love that we're a planar fantasy, and that we're not tied to this tokenesque world, even though I said that's kind of where I come from. And so the diversity of races and zones and cultures and all of that. I know I'm going to get loads of hate for this, but I'm really interested in seeing how the gnomes and their area and their arcane aspects turn out. Because it's going to be totally different from other areas of the game, and that we can combine all of that in a single game. I just think is so cool.
Absolutely, man. All right, so we'll knock a few more out quickly. We're just hitting on the 60-minute mark now, but we've got just about 2 or 3 more, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward to 1 year after a big launch and success. Fingers crossed, that's what we all want. Will VR's success and our dollars, being the community's dollars and backers, shared by everyone at VR, will we aim for our CSR and other low-level employees to be paid a living wage with benefits? Can we also expect VR to adopt diversity aspirations at all levels, similar to those at other tech companies?
So I'd say all of this is already built in to our philosophy and how we run this team. It's a team more than it is a company, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't like being called boss. I don't prescriptively tell people what to do. I try to encourage them to think about what's important and in what order it should be done. And, if I have to do a tiebreaker, I'll do that. But there's so much talent and passion and energy on this team that, no bossing really needs to be done. So it's a team, and I hope to run it that way going forward. It's a place where creative talent can come together and do something really cool and do it over the long term. I don't believe in the term low-level employees.
No,
everybody's
I don't
part
either.
of the team. Yeah.
Yep.
So the compensation structure is set up to share the fruits of success with the team, I my only hope is that can be done as equitably as possible, so everybody does well, but the people who really sacrificed and really contributed do extra well. And that's always hard to do, and there's subjective qualitative aspects to that, but all we can do is hope that we can measure and reflect that the best we can. But there's a lot of room for, finishing this game and releasing it is a reward in unto itself.
Yeah.
It'll make careers. It's something to be proud of. It makes a difference in the world. It is a big deal. And having been a part of that is, it's big for people and it's big for the team members. But at the same time, they deserve to, if the game is, when the game is successful, they deserve to share in the upside of that. And hell yeah, of course they will.
Perfect. All right, so we got one more question and then 2 quick fires and we should be done. Server transfers, race changes, name changes, server merges, server splits, cross-server chat, voice chat. These are wishes and challenges that have confronted most other MMOs at some point. So where does VR currently stand on these topics, and are debates and other mechanics being built, databases and other mechanics being built with some of these things in mind?
Well, these have been problems in games forever, so we're aware of them, obviously. They're very complex issues. Identity issues, user identity issues, operational issues. We know the pros, we know the cons. Some of the issues are structural, some of them are operational. The structural issues are considered as part of the design process. We've seen it all, and we know what to look out for, and we know some of the ways to deal with it. And but some of them are just operational, staying on top of things. And I think it kind of goes back to what we said about what we're trying to build here. We're trying to build a world, an ever-expanding world where people are comfortable and can call home, and something that people can enjoy for the rest of their lives, or for 20 years, or for 10 years, or 5 years, or whatever, but long-term. And so the long-term health of the world that is Pantheon is dependent on the right business model, the right community vibe, and people not being able to get away with exploiting the world and the people around them. And we're gonna we're going to build for the long term and the long term health, and managing and avoiding all of these issues is key to that.
Great response, mate. All right, a nice quick fire one. Would you play a Pantheon pen and paper RPG?
I grew up on Dungeons and Dragons. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and across the street lived David Castiglione, and he was a great dungeon master. And I still remember just the awe and fascination of Dungeons and Dragons, even at a young age. If we could come anywhere close to that with a Pantheon-themed game, that would be spectacular. I'll tell you, Justin's lore is amazing, and if we could do something based off of that, time allowing, which I don't think I'll have much, but I'd play that all weekend.
Yeah, me too, man, for sure. All right, one last question to wrap it up, and I think this is a fantastic one. What question do you wish would have been asked or topic raised for this roundtable that wasn't? So what's something you want to get out there to everyone?
Gosh, we've spoken so much.
We've had some great questions. We've covered nearly everything and more. It's been amazing.
There's, the community's, as usual, the community's been pretty thorough about asking questions, and there's really little more to say than to express my sincere and deep appreciation to the community for their support, for sticking with this, for being appropriately, constructively tough on us, for tempering cynicism, and for supporting the game. We couldn't have done it without you. We wouldn't be here without you. You're adding a lot, and you just put all the pieces together, and this is gonna be successfreally thanks to the team and the community, and the world needs this game, and I really can't wait to finish this thing up and launch it. It's been a great journey, but really looking forward to accelerating and getting in there with you guys and enjoying this world.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Me too. Very well said. Well, that wraps us up. Do you have time for a couple of live questions, or are you on a time limit?
I do.
Okay, perfect. Well, we might give another 5 to 10 minutes. So first one, guys, if you want to tag me so I can see it light up, please just tag Kilsin at Kilsin, and we'll get a couple out. So the first one is the launch of Pantheon planned to be a staggered launch, such as VIP, alpha, beta, post-beta, so that the starting zones are not flooded with potential undesirable quantities of players? And also with regard to servers, is the plan to have a smaller and more finite number of servers in order to keep server populations healthy? They've seen other MMOs with too many servers after a relatively short time, or kind of ghost towns. Okay, so we did speak a little bit about that with population server performance.
Yeah. So where to start on that? It's pretty typical to do what was called a staggered launch, and I would expect to see kind of a natural fade from late beta into launch that way. I think, having the VIPs to help test things before they're taken to the next stage is critical and really valuable. And the VIPs are going to be really important players in that respect going forward. I think, through launch, and probably in terms of preparing expansion launches, for example. So you guys are VIPs for life, and I think you've got a lot to give throughout the life of the entire game. The issue of the number of realms, the number of servers, combining servers, it's been handled various different ways, I, it's something that we think about all the time, and there's a lot of tried and true methods, and none of them I'm particularly impressed with, and I hope we can come up with something better. We don't have a magical answer right now, but I think this industry needs to do better in that respect, and it's something we think about, and I hope we can come up with something that's better than what's done now.
Yeah, absolutely. This might be a little bit early to answer this, but what quality of life features will be added to Pantheon based on the feedback received from the evaluation build?
What quality of life features? So, for example, and this is just one example, the climbing tutorial. You end up down in this pit, and there's somebody yelling down at you, giving you advice, and you finally get a torch, and then you climb your way out. The problem is, when you sheath your torch, it stops providing light, and so you're in total darkness, and so it ends up being this slightly uncomfortable leap of faith. And so, pure speculation, guys. Don't take this as a design feature set in stone, but we start thinking about, well, how can we do better with torch equip when climbing? Do they hold it in their teeth? Do they? I don't know. Should players have light sources when they're climbing in a dark area? Quality of life stuff like that. Currently, right. the key mapping system needs to be better, and so it's been a problem twice on evaluation demos, and clearly it's something that needs to be refined. Those are two examples, and then this group might cringe at this, but we definitely tuned it a little bit too hardcore and a little bit too real MMO, and it needs to be a little bit more evaluator friendly, with a little bit more in your face tutorializing, and a little bit more nudging. The evaluation version, it's a sampling of Pantheon, but it's not Pantheon in terms of tuning, in terms of difficulty and needing to group. You can you get into those areas later on, but the beginning 30 minutes needs more hand-holding, quality of life, all those things that make this group cringe. For the purposes of this particular build, it needs more hand-holding.
That's it. That's not to say what we're going to go live with will be completely different. It's just to get people into the game and having fun and holding a bit of a hand so they can experience it and have fun in a quicker time frame than what these guys would when we launch.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to skip that question, Spoof, about development. We don't have any bad blood to any funders. We're just looking for somebody that's going to align with our goals and vision, and we look forward to seeing that person or persons. After the latest investment funding, is VR still largely crowdfunded? If not, can we expect to see any new types of pledges of smaller and or larger values? Also, how much of an influx of interest do you expect in the gaming community due to this investment?
So the game is funded through a combination of private investment and crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is absolutely critical to what we do. The more money that comes in, the more people we can hire, the more artwork we can create, the faster we can build the world. I will tell you all, the company is managed very methodically and conservatively and frugally. Money is not wasted at this company. The team members are, they're paid, but they're not getting rich, that's for sure. There is a certain level of sacrifice and passion required to be working on Pantheon, and I wish we could do more, but people are just, part of the reward is this really cool project. So the company is run very frugally. We're very careful with our resources, and every penny that comes in does make a difference. It goes toward developing the game faster, getting it out faster, more artwork, what have you. So I think I've neglected part of the question, Ben, if you want to remind me of the rest of it.
No, that's fine, mate. It's basically just after the funding. Can we expect any new types of pledges or smaller or larger values, and how much of an influx of interest do we expect?
Yeah. So we are thinking about some crowdfunding initiatives, doing a few things a little bit differently. I wouldn't say it's new. Well, I guess you could call them new pledges, but we've got some interesting ideas to do a few things a little bit differently. Stay tuned. Again, speculative conversation, thinking out loud. We'll see. As is usual, the co-stream and the announcement of funding has created a great deal of interest in the company and Pantheon, and has created a lot of inbound inquiries from angel investors and some actually strategic investors, and has created a nice bump in the crowdfunding. So PR works. Showing the game off works. Co-streaming works, and we need to do it more, and we need to do it with more streamers. We love Co. He's great. He's a fabulous person. I can't tell you how amazing a human being he is, but I know some people maybe might not like his streaming style and how dramatic he is sometimes, but he's an amazing human being. I think we're going to be shooting for more kind of outbound awareness influencer marketing in 2021, and we've got some interesting ideas too. I hope we can do them.
Absolutely, mate. So let's move on. We've got a couple more. A fun little one. Do you believe in gnome height matters? So the size of our gnomes and how big or small they are. There's a hashtag gnome height matters. Do you believe in that?
Is this from a pro-gnome person or a person who thinks that they should be stomped into a splotch of gelatin on the landscape?
They're a fan. They believe that they should be shorter, smaller.
They should be shorter. Okay. Sorry, I can't follow all the memes. To be perfectly honest, I don't get prescriptive on design issues. Sorry, you guys duke it out. I'm not throwing any fuel on that.
He's going to stay neutral, nice and politically correct.
Yep. I'll tell you, one of my favorite areas in Vanguard was the gnome area.
Yes.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, me too. And the Raki area was great. Okay, so it sounds like things are coming along nicely together. Is there a plan to get to Alpha? We have already answered that. How much is needed from the VIP crew to get there? Sounds like most of what's being talked about is stuff from the VR team is what we're going to work on. We had a chat about that. We did talk about Alpha and what we need to get there, and VIP. Look, you guys were testing. Chris explained that, which you can go back and listen to this after I upload it. He answered that really well about what's needed and what we're going to get there, but we might just skip that for now, for time's sake. But it was a really in-depth answer, mate, so if you want to go back and listen to this afterwards, I'm sure you'll be satisfied. Chris, is there a plan to market heavily for Alpha or wait until later in development?
So one of the challenges with marketing a game pre-launch is that if you overhype it too early, you can create a lot of froth and a lot of excitement, and then that excitement dies off and people get cynical or impatient for the launch, and it can be tough to bring them back sometimes. So there's not going to be a lot of hype marketing around Alpha, but there will be measured awareness marketing around Alpha. And it's just your standard awareness marketing, getting more people to hear about it, to know about it, to see it in its current form and realize that it's got legs and it's going to be a cool game. But I don't know if the community has noticed this, but you know, on the marketing side, we're not hype monsters who try to froth things up, because it's too early for that. You're going to see a lot heavier marketing later in beta, when we can sustain the interest and convert it into paying customers. The people who are here now, they're here because they're passionate and they want to be, and they have something to contribute, and they're resilient. But the marketing dollars and time and effort and energy really needs to be invested later.
Absolutely. All right. So has there been any progress on finding the tech artist yet? What about a team of 3D artists?
This is one that I wish I could explain to you to this group in a company meeting, so I could give the best answer, but there's some internal information that I can't share that makes it hard to give a proper answer to this question. So I'm sitting here trying to get some time to come up with the best way to answer this. The kind of tech artist that we needed was a esoteric black art tech artist, based on the way we're doing rendering in Unity in the game now. And instead of hiring that dark magician, I think we're going to take a technology step with how the game is rendered to make the need for a esoteric black artist moot, and also accelerate development and make the game more beautiful, all in the same step. Some of you might be able to figure out what I'm talking about, but I really can't say much more.
That's perfect. That's more than enough. Thank you, mate. So we'll take 3 more questions, guys, before you wrap it up. Will the evaluation build ever be available in any format, so that our friends, family can see and experience what it will be about? I know many here would like to be more likely to pledge after a hands-on experience.
That's an interesting one. I don't know how we do that. It's an interesting idea. I think the VIPs are going to get their hands on it first, and then we would have to figure out how we could pull something like that off. One of the risks is that it would be very easy for somebody to play the evaluation demo and misunderstand Pantheon. In the wrong hands, people would say, this isn't challenging enough. This doesn't capture the feels that I'm looking for. Never underestimate people's ability to misunderstand something that you show them, even when it has a disclaimer attached. So I don't know how we could do it without creating market confusion. But I love the idea. I wish we could use it that way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how we do it without creating market confusion.
Okay, so I'm going to the last question. Chris, did you come to Sigil after Microsoft or before? And were you the reason they got picked up by SOE?
I don't know if I can answer all of that question. After Microsoft, and I did assist in the most fundamental way to get the company further funded so the game could eventually be published. And I'm not sure I can say much more than that.
That's enough. And warrant a big thank you for me, because I played Vanguard from like early beta to sunset, and I loved it. So thank you for playing your part and getting it out there.
Yep.
All right, that wraps everything up, guys. So I want to say a massive thank you, Chris, to taking your time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk to me and the VIPs. I know I appreciate it a lot, as do they. You're a very busy man. Your time is precious, but yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Well, thank you guys for coming together. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you for all the support. And thank you for tolerating me walking the tightrope on some of these issues. I wish I could say everything. I think we're as open as we can be, probably more open than is wise sometimes. I know people always want more. We're doing our best, and keep it coming, guys. Thank you for the ideas, the support, the constructive criticism, all of it. We love it all.
Absolutely, well said. And thank you again, guys. We know you're all around the world and appreciate you staying up and getting up early and staying up late to come and listen to these. So we are back in full swing now. So the end of next month, I'll have somebody else on. I'll let you guys know who that is closer to the day, and also post the thread a week before so you can get your questions in. Until then, thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend and month. I will upload this in about an hour's time to get it up to VIPs and champions immediately, and then in a week we'll release it to the public. But thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate it, mate. It was great to have you on.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, guys.